Welcome. Cheers. Welcome to the G Spot. I'm your host, Dr. G. Alfred Palmer. We're going to get started in a few minutes. Well. Welcome to another edition of G Spot, where you find great support, great purpose, great opportunity, and great Transformation. I am your host, G. Alfred Palmer, and I am looking forward to another session. Looking forward to being with you again today. We have a session today that's actually a part two to our last session, because I was asked questions relative to the fairness of what was being presented in the last session. Some folks felt that I wasn't being fair, and it was very one-sided. And what I was saying is that there are two sides, but we can only address one side at a time. So our last session, we dealt with one side. Last session, we dealt with one side. Now we're going to deal with the other side this session. And you see the title, Does the Number of His Sexual Partners Matter? The last one was, Does the Number of Her Sexual Partners Matter? So we're going to look at it the other side this time. So here we go. So the thing that it needs to be examined is, again, not coming from an emotional perspective, but from a more logical one, coming from a more logical perspective rather than an emotional one, and making sure that we answer the question from a more balanced, when emotions are involved, the tendency is that rationale or logic um, takes a back seat to the point that it can be non-existent. We don't want that to be the case. Now, I need to lay down some ground rules. Okay. Um, First of all, not everybody's going to like this message, as I'm sure not everyone liked the last one, and that's fine. Because not every message is for everyone. It's for specific people. So I'm not going to try to be politically correct to not offend, because that's not possible. You will always offend someone. And even an offense is not you doing it, it's their choice. People choose to be offended by virtue of the fact of whether they agree or disagree, or they like or they dislike what you're saying. So if it's something that you're not going to like, it's not for you. And if it's not for you, you might not want to look at this session. You may not. But the bottom line is, um, my voice is not for everyone. I am not everyone's cup of tea, but neither are you. So who is? I mean, Jesus lived and he wasn't everybody's cup of tea. So to that, I say, I know that not everyone is going to appreciate what I'm going to say, but it's not for you. Okay. And I say these things to help gender in in and for us. We need to be enlightened. We need to be informed, entertained, and engender exchanges of communication in our areas of influence. So it's important. Enlightenment comes not so much always from me in my in my counseling. I've always understood that more enlightenment comes between my patients than it does coming individually one on one. And so when you go away from listening to this or viewing this video, you'll go away from it. Hopefully, through exchanges with others, you'll gain enlightenment. And maybe you'll get some here, maybe you won't. But it's not. That's not the key. See, my key is for spirit to move. It's not for me. It's not for G. Alpha Palmer. It's for spirit. And the only way that we can get spirit is for us to change our mind. And for us to change our mind, we have to be willing to think, and we have to reconsider new ways and new paradigms and new ideas in order for us to grow, to expand, to extend, and to elevate. So if we're going to do those things, we have to reconsider where we are and be willing to move from that place. When Moses took the children of Israel out into the desert, there came points along the way where some did not want to go any further, and they said, "Well, you can go ahead, but I'm done. I'm through. I'm not going any further." And there's going to be those kind of people in this situation. Um, there's going to be people who are not going to go but so far, and in not going, however far you choose to go that far, and then rest, do what you have to do, and but hopefully somewhere along the way there'll be another pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night to help you move in the different environments that presents itself to you as you move on your journey. So the last time we came together, I mean, ah, folks didn't like the idea of what I presented relative to um, the question. The question is, does the number of her sexual partners, the history of her sexual partners, matter? Is it meaningful how many sexual partners she had? Many people say no. I say yes. And I talked about it in our last video and explained why. Now, some people will disagree, will vehemently disagree. That's fine. I don't expect anybody to continually to agree on everything. And if those things that that I say many disagree, that's fine too. Because the bottom line is I'm not sent for everyone. And because I'm not sent for everyone, I understand that. And I'm beginning to wear that a little bit more with more open arms, understanding that not everybody's going to hear me. Now, because we dealt with the last session from the perspective of philosophy, psychology, biology, um, uh, cognitive development, the stages of development via the outline of Erik Erikson. Um, we looked at it from a theological standpoint. We're going to do those same things, but even more so. I think more this process is going to be more theological, and the reason for that is that more people will have um, disagreements around the other processes. Now, there are people that don't believe the biblical narrative, and I've shared before that my stance on it, and that is my foundational source. And if that's not your foundational source, then you're not going to see where I'm going with this, nor will you agree. And so, again, this is not for you. But I don't care what you believe, there has to be a foundation. And the question is, what is your foundation, no matter what you believe? Where is the source material for what you believe? Where did you get it from? Is it from a psychologist? Is it from a psychiatrist? Is it from a muse? Is it from a sage? Is it from the biblical narrative? Is it from whatever you choose as a model? So you have to know where you stand and why you stand on what it is that you stand. I stand on the biblical narrative. And I don't believe, again, that the biblical narrative is a religious book. We've made it one, but it is not a religious book. It's a book for that teaches us how to live life, and it teaches us how to be successful in this dimension called Earth. It shows us how to have dominion, which is the purpose of manhood, or I should say humanity, not manhood. Manhood, but overall humanity, because that engulfs both male and female, men and women, boys and girls. So when we look at the whole idea of does the number of his sexual partners matter, someone will say, well, what is this? What does the Bible got to do with anything? Well, it has to do with everything. Now, here's the problem. The problem is that we have been looking at it and been given, taught it from a misogynistic or a chauvinistic perspective. The Bible is neither of those. The biblical narrative is neither. If you search, and here's the thing is, we have read the scriptures and then we think we've gotten a deep knowledge and awareness of it, and it's not true, because English is a language, and it does other languages disservice. And as a result of that, we don't begin to glean the understanding of what the biblical narrative has to offer. And as a result, we have to look at some different aspects of the biblical narrative to gain a more positive and complete picture. And that's what I try to do. Now, I'm not going to try to do it all here, because it's just not possible. But I want to answer this question as much as possible. Now, when we looked at the last session, we looked at a great deal of the developmental, the psychological, and the cognitive answers relative to why the 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 history of her sexual partners matters. It does matter. It does matter. And we talked about it in our last session as why. I'm not going to go back to that. If you want to understand why, then you need to look back at that particular video. This one is going to address the same coin, but the other side. Does the number of his sexual partners matter? And I'm going to, there's going to be people who's going to say, they're going to be saying, no, 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 his sexual history is not pertinent to the relationship, because as her, the past is the past, and it has nothing to do with the present. And so we leave the past with the past and move on. Then there's some that would say that yes, it does matter, and it matters because if you want to know what hers is, then she has a right to know what yours is. And and so there's a myriad of different perspectives. Now the question comes, why do you answer it that way? Um, Again, I use more of a psychological, a developmental, a philosophical, and a theological perspective as to why I answered it the way that I did. So I'm not just using, but my foundation is the biblical narrative, always, always. But I use other means to help support the biblical narrative because I think the biblical narrative is the proper foundational source for humanity. Okay, so with that being the case, I want to look at this from a more uh, biblical narrative, and so I'm going to go back and I want to look at the biblical narrative from the very onset of humanity and how that applies to us today and how that applies to this question that we're asking: does the number of his sexual partners matter? Now I'm going to answer it and say that yes, it does. It does matter. It does matter. I was going to try to mess with you, but no, I'm not going to do that. Yes, it does matter, but not for the same reasons as she. Let me get rid of some of this background noise. But not for the same reasons, and that's why we're going to go into it. We're going to go into it. It's important to understand this. It's important to understand this. Hear what I'm getting ready to say. Men and women are equal, but not the same. Men and women are equal, but not the same. Now, why is that important? That's important because look at it from a natural standpoint. We have some very um, common examples. I've used them before. I'll use them again. 2 plus 2 equals 4, but so does 3 plus 1. They equal, but they're not the same. They're not the same. They're equal, but they're not the same. When we look at our children are equal or should be. If they're not, they should be. And being that they're equal, but do we treat them the same? No. No, because one child may respond a certain way that the other one may not. So we treat them equal, but we do not treat them the same. It's important that you keep that in mind because what you have to understand is that the creator treats man and woman equal but not the same. And see, what we want to be, we really don't want equality. We want samety, if that's a word. We want to be the same. We don't want equal because we understand being equal doesn't necessarily mean being the same. And there's very good reason as to not being treated the same. And it's because of the different ways in which we're built, designed psychologically, cognitively, intellectually, emotionally. And so because of those factors, it becomes very important that we understand that we are equal but not the same. So what you heard from me in the last video in this area, it may sound like I'm saying something totally different in this one, but I'm not. What I'm trying to get across to you is that we are equal but not the same. Men and women are not going to be treated the same. Now, some will say that that's unfair because justice is a very key element especially in the area of masculinity. Um, but and it's important to women too, but on a different level. But that's something else. We'll get there on another time. But I want to bring home the idea of equal but not the same, because that is going to be what leads us down the road. Now, here's the problem. After I didn't just took 20 minutes to say what I said, people will not remember it. They're not going to remember it. They're not going to remember what I preface what I'm getting ready to say with. They're not. So let me go and just move on. And I'm going to move on from the biblical narrative. Now, the first thing we've got to understand is that Adam and Eve, okay, before there was an Eve, there was an Adam, and Adam was given some responsibilities. He was given some responsibilities. Those responsibilities came from the Creator. And they're important because they are part of his assignment. Now, if it's Adam, what we're speaking of is manhood. We're speaking of manhood. We're talking about the vision that the Creator had for manhood that was fulfilled in Jesus, but not fulfilled in Adam, because Adam was not supposed to fulfill his manhood. He wasn't going to be self-actualized. It wasn't even intended for that to happen. Adam was in his malehood. Uh that's that's a kicking over another sacred cow. But anyway, what Adam was given was responsibility. As a male, he's given responsibility. His responsibility covered three areas. These three areas are three assignments. He was to replenish, repopulate, and recreate. It's the same way, gentlemen, today. Our responsibilities are to replenish, repopulate, and recreate. Know the prefix re. The re actually denotes that we are an imitation of the original. To read anything is to copy the original. If we redo, it is something that has been done, but we are redoing it. So it becomes very critical to understand that the doing part was done by the Creator. And what we're doing is redoing what the Creator has created on a lower level. We're in his likeness and in his image. Okay. Now, I know to some people this may sound like a Bible study, but it's not. Actually, it's actually geology, it's biology, it's chronology, it's psychology, it's biology. There is so much science here. And there's theology. So we're hitting a lot here. So don't get discouraged. Don't turn off because it's something that you see, you think that it's not applicable to you, because it is. Because as long as you breathe and go like this, that's breath. That breath is property of the Creator. That's property of the Creator. And by virtue, you means that you have a responsibility to redo what was done by the Creator. That's not religion. I didn't say how you do it. I didn't put any prerequisites on it. That's what religion does. Tie you up, bind you in the Latin. It means to tie up, to bind up. That's not what I'm doing. I am here to inform you. My goal is not only to inform, but also is to enlighten, to entertain. I like to entertain, right? And to engender exchange, intellectual exchange, communication, if you would. So what when we look at the idea of Adam, we're talking, actually the word Adam actually means man. It means red, it means ruddy. Okay? It means earthly. Okay? Males are earthly. They're earthly. You have to get my book, because what I can't go into it because it'll take me away from where I'm at. But the bottom line is to understand the difference between childhood, malehood, and manhood are critically important. Just like it's important to understand girlhood, femalehood, womanhood. They're important and they're not the same, but people will argue about it. But it's important that we understand our assignment as males. We are to replenish. Now, what is it that we replenish? We replenish those things that have been depleted. Anything that's been depleted, we are responsible to replenish. If we use it, we need to replenish it. I don't care what it is. If it's if it's if it's energy on here, then we have to replenish it. We have to replenish whatever we use. Okay? We have to repopulate, because the bottom line is people expire. People expire. In other words, people die. And so we have to repopulate. We have to repopulate. And to do that, as a male, you have to understand what goes into that. Okay? And then lastly, we have to recreate. That's important, because it's in recreation that men learn how to exercise dominion over this realm called earth. And it's always been that way. Men exercise the art of recreation because there's nothing new under the sun. Why? Because it's already been created. All we're doing is recreating. When was it created? In the mind of God, it was created. Everything that's created started with the creator. The creator doesn't anything. The creator is the originator, the master. We are the We are the recreators. Okay? So it's important to understand that. And so males, we have a responsibility to recreate. And that is in every occupational endeavor, in every area of entrepreneurship, in every area of science, in every area, we are to recreate. And the way that we recreate is to understand that the creator created first, and then we pattern after his model, her model, however you want to put it, and its model, and we recreate. We recreate. Okay, that's important. That's critically important, actually. Now, when we look at the idea that every individual comes here with design, mission, and assignment. The Re's are a part of the assignment. Okay? They are part of the assignment. Okay, so it's important that we understand. Actually, it's a part of the mission. It's the mission, and we'll get to the assignment in a minute, because that's what we're here to talk about. Is actually the assignment. My mistake. What the Re's are? The Re's are the mission. Now, when we come here, when we're born, what makes us is what, from a physiological standpoint, is what we call DNA. Right? We know what that is. DNA is a strand that is associated with creating everything. Well, also from the perspective of what I call purpose, every individual is born with DMA. DMA preceded the DNA. Just like an M stand is before an N. DMA comes before the DNA, because the DMA is in the mind of the maker prior to the DNA being made. And the DNA is a physical picture of the DMA. And what is the DMA? Design, mission, and assignment. We have a mission to replenish, repopulate, and recreate. Okay? We have those. Those are important that we understand that. It's important that we understand that. So let's move on. Adam not only had an assignment, right, that was to his individual, to this particular environment called Earth, he also had responsibility to the individual that was called Eve. Now, Eve, like Adam, is not a woman. She is a female. She is not fully developed. Some people would think that she is, but she's not. Then who is the fulfillment of womanhood? Good question. From the biblical narrative, it would be Mary, the mother of Jesus. She is the epitome of womanhood. Look at her, examine her, research her, and understand who Mary was. Now, Mary is not to be worshiped, neither is Jesus to be worshiped. No more than you worship anything else that's a model. You don't worship models, but what you do is you mimic and imitate the pattern. And that's who Mary is. Women are to mimic and imitate her pattern. Okay. Anyway, so here is Adam. He has responsibility assignments to Earth or purpose here on Earth. But he also has responsibility toward Eve. Now, what are they? They are to guard, guide, and ground. Excuse me. To guard, guide, and ground. Why? Why is that? Why is Adam supposed to guard? Because he is to protect her. He is to protect her. Why is that important? Because he has been designed to have the wherewithal to protect her. The muscles, the shoulders, the back, the thighs, the calves, the feet, the physicality that is inbred in him is designed for him to guard Eve. That's important because that is the responsibility, that is a masculine responsibility. That is a masculine responsibility. The guarding is not only an essence kind of guarding, but you need to have the physicality and the equipment to be able to fulfill it in the physical realm. If you can't do that, then you are not a male. You are not a male. So the first part is that Adam must guard. The second one is Adam must guide. Why must he guide? He must guide because here's the thing. Not because women or females are females are incapable. It's not that. It's that they are so able to take in so much information. Men are very, very singular, whereas Women are very broad. They take in so much. And what happens is they can take in so much that to the point that there is no place to begin. And so what a man has to do is to help guide where the starting point is. He has to identify where the starting point. Or someone say, well, why can't she do that? See, that's that stuff right there. Is that part of some females who don't like being female. They really want to be male. They want to be masculine. They don't embrace their role as feminine or femininity. They don't embrace it. They actually don't like it. They dislike it. They want to be masculine, and they want to fulfill masculine in from the core. Now, and as a result of that, here's where they got it from. They've got it from their experiences growing up. They learned it's learned behavior that they've gleaned masculine traits. But in your core, you're not masculine. You can't do what masculine men can do via you've not built that way. Psychologically, intellectually, developmentally, physically, you are not built that way. Neither are we built to fulfill you. We can't do it. I don't care what operations we get or how we do whatever we do. We can't be you. We can't. And neither can you be us. Now that's the gist of it. We don't want, and so when we start talking about the whole idea of replenishing, repopulating, and recreating, and we look at it from three different perspectives. We look at it from the physical, the psychosocial, and the spiritual. When we look at it from replenishing, we look at it from a physicality, and so when we start talking about, let me just say it this way. When we start talking about does the number of his sexual partners matter, the answer is yes. It does. It does matter. It does matter. Now, let me back up a little bit and say this. Females use the power of seduction to get what they need and want and protect themselves. Men use the power of force or the power of violence to get what they want. Okay? And it's important that we understand that that's where people operate. They operate in that way, and that's how men operate when it's the power of force to replenish, repopulate, and recreate. They use force. And what happens is that power of force spills over into other areas of life, namely relationship with women. And then what happens is men, not men, males use force because men know better. Males don't. So men understand that they are not to use violence or force. Males use violence or force because they've experienced how it has worked for them in the past. And because it's worked for them, they use it, and it goes over from their entrepreneurial to their purpose in other areas of life to into their intimate relationships with the woman. That is wrong. That is wrong. And because of that, what happens is we have the domestic violence that it comes about as a result. So when we start talking about relationship, male relationship with females, here's some things that males got to understand. Males need to understand that we bring experience. You got to bring some experience. And so to bring experience, you've got to have experienced some things. It's out of your experience that you're able to protect her. You learn how to operate and function in environments because you have been accustomed to moving and operating and functioning within those environments. So now that when you experience similar environments with her, you know how to act, because so experience is important. Not only that, but males need to bring a knowledge of self-satisfaction. You need to know how what does it for you, what makes you happy, what fulfills you. This is a part of your development. This is going to cause you to be able to move from malehood to manhood. The problem is we don't know, and we haven't gone through these processes, and as a result, we have grown men who are really males. So a male needs to come to the place where he understands and he has the knowledge of what satisfies him, what makes him happy. He needs to have vision of where he wants to go and how he wants to go about doing it. And it's important because once you reach manhood, it's time to start fulfilling that vision. And once you start fulfilling that vision, then your Eve is going to show up. And your Eve is going to show up and she's going to have do this, do that, do this. That's what Eve brings. But you got to get there first, guys. You got to know what purpose is. And one of the things I do is I help people find purpose. It's called Purposeology. Go to my website, gapalmer.com. gapalmer.com. Check me out. Okay, so we talked about in relations, men they need to bring experience. They need to have the knowledge of self-satisfaction. And the last thing is they need to recognize their responsibility for establishing relationship. Before, and I'll say it again and I'll say it again, women are responsible for sex. Men are responsible for relationship. It's just the way that the Creator made it. So getting upset about a man having the authority within the relationship is not going to change it. It's not. It's beyond you and me. So if it's important to men or men have the responsibility within relationship, if a woman wants relationship, what she needs to do is to find out what it is that brings the man pleasure or self-satisfaction, and be able to ensure that he has those things, whatever that is. Well, what about him satisfying a woman? Women are here for men. I know you don't like it, but the truth of the matter is, women are the creation of and are here for men. You're not even here to serve God. Somebody, I'm done with you. I'm through with you. No. Understand. Eve came from Adam. And the reason he came from Adam is because she is underneath his protection and his responsibility. And Adam is under the responsibility of the Creator. That's why it's important for the man to fulfill his responsibilities and the woman to fulfill hers. And what we have is we have so many women who have negated these two principles, though that God is over man and man is over woman. They don't like that. And because of that, some don't want to be women because they want to be men. You can only fulfill your purpose to the utmost by fulfilling the DNA that you came here with. So here we go. Now, why is it critical for the number of his past sexual partners matter? Here's why. Because men, and I just said it to you, men have to bring experience. You can't bring experience without having experienced some things. It's the man's responsibility to bring experience, not the woman. It's not her responsibility. She's not built for that. Men are to go out and to gain experiences. In this realm, it'll be sexual experiences. Some men understand, and whoever you are, I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just saying that this is, and that is that many of you, when you were males, young males, and maybe even younger, maybe late childhood, start having sexual relations with older females. She began to teach you things. This was the experiences that you had. And it's because you are supposed to gain experience so that you can bring that to the relationship that's going to be garnered when you come into a relationship with a married to marry a woman. Okay. Now, in doing that, what we've got to understand is a woman is not to bring experience to the table. And that's the important aspect. She's not to bring experience, he is. Because if she brings experience, then she's operating in a masculine mode. And he's actually operating from a feminine mode. This is the problem. So when a male brings that experience, he's bringing the experience of masculinity to the table. He initiates, he penetrates, he inserts, he copulates. She receives, she's filled, she's inserted. And that's not just sexually, that's in every area. So that when a man comes to the marriage bed, he's bringing experience that's going to first cause him to be able to know what is and what is not acceptable. And then secondly, what satisfies and what brings pleasure to him in the marriage bed. Lastly, what it does is enables him to set the parameters within the relationship again, because again, he's responsible for establishing the relationship, and he's setting up parameters to ensure that the relationship remains or is maintained. That's his responsibility. Someone like this. So yes, he has to inform her of the number of sexual partners, but from a different perspective. He needs to relay his experience. He needs to relay to her his ability, what satisfies, and then lastly, how to establish and maintain this relationship. Now, you may not like this, ladies, you may not like it, but if you want to be in a long-lasting relationship, these are the parameters. These are the parameters, and I didn't set them. The Creator did. It's all set in the biblical narrative. So if you have a problem with anybody, take it up with God. But I would tell you, your arms are too short to box with God. So females have the power of seduction. Men or males have the the power of force. And we're going to take this further because what you got to understand is femalehood and malehood is not the totality nor the completion of the cognitive, emotional, and intellectual development of both. You do that when you reach manhood and womanhood, and that's important because it's a different way of operating, functioning, and behaving. So, yes, he needs to relate to you the number of sexual partners. It matters, but not for the same reason. Physically, he has to do it because of health reasons and health concerns. That's logical. Health reasons and health concerns. He has to do it not only for health reasons and health concerns. He has to do it for the area for psychosocial reasons for the to engender in safety, trust, and to strengthen and the relationship that he is attempting to build. He's setting up the parameters from a psychosocial perspective. So he wants her to trust him. He wants her to have to feel safe with him and to know that he used to do this, that, and the other, but now he is developed to a place that he's bringing that experience here within our relationship for us to be able to move in within the confines of our relationship in this manner so that our relationship can be established and maintained. And lastly, what he's doing is he's pointing to the spiritual mandate that says that these are the things that he's supposed to do. He is supposed to set and establish these parameters. He's supposed to set up, he's supposed to guard, to guide, and to ground her. He's supposed to do that within their relationship. And the way he does that is what I just mentioned: physically, psychosocially, and spiritually. I hope you're following me, because for some people this may not, it may not do it for you. It may not be something that you agree with or even understand. But he that have an ear, let him hear. You are allowed to hear if you have an ear. But most of us don't have an ear. Many of us don't have an ear. We are not able to receive because we cannot hear. We can't hear. And so it becomes important not to listen to what I'm saying, but to hear. And what I've learned is this: faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing. You're not going to gain everything the first time. You have to keep hearing. And so that's why you may hear me say some of the same things over and over again, because we have to start at A to move to B, to move to C, to move to D, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to do those things to move progressively down the continuum of human development and human growth. I hope you understand that. I'm not putting anybody down. I want us to come together. I want us to come together, because this area that I'm dealing with is not my primary area. My primary area is that of purpose. But what you have to understand is that relationship is important to purpose. So I have to do these prerequisites in order to take us to the main course. That's why I'm doing it. So I hope, my prayer is that this was profitable for you. I hope that it was profitable. So we're gonna move on to the next area, and the next area we'll see how our spirit leads, and whatever I glean, um, and I'm hoping that we're looking at trying to develop some means where we can have a chat room and begin to have exchanges here on air. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I'm working on it, and we're going to get there. We're going to get there. working on some cameras, working on some different things, and it's going to take us. It's going to take us putting some things together to get there. And once we get there, we're going to take it to another level. We're still working on um, the studio here. It's a lot. It's a lot because I'm juggling a lot of things right now, um, and I'm hoping that you'll hang in there with me. Um, do me a favor. Share, share, like what I'm doing. You know, hit the notification button so that you can know when I'm doing something new. Okay. Um, you may not agree with everything I say, and you won't. I don't care who it is. You're not going to agree with everything because the way you're built and the way they're built are not the same. Now you're within the same continuum of the bell curve, but he may be over this way, you may be, and so it may be some cognitive dissonance there. But yet, if we can come to a place of mutual agreement and understanding, if we would just take the time of listening to one another. So that's my challenge. That you listen, not listen, excuse me, that we hear each other. Listening is biological. Biological. It's the mechanisms. But hearing connects the mechanism to the psychological, to the spiritual, to the intellectual, and it gets everything, even to the physiological. That's why it's important to hear. That's why Jesus said, he that have an ear, let him hear. And he didn't say, he that have an ear, let him listen. Anyway, that's this session. Got another one coming. Check it out. Till next time. Peace.